Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What I'm Poning Right Now, where today we are going to play Kerbal Space Program. It's this, like a space flight simulation game. It's currently in alpha still. It's being put together by this company called Squad. This is version 0.17. I think right now it's $18, and you can get into the alpha, and then obviously all of the updates and whatever are free at that point. And then when the game is finally released, you've already purchased it and you get it. Good. Let's start this game here. So, the game actually can look a lot better than this. I just have my graphics settings set all the way down to make sure that the frame rate stays as high as possible while I record this. This here is the Space Center on planet Kerbin. Over here is the spaceplane hangar. This is where you construct craft that will take off horizontally using this runway back here. This right here is the vehicle assembly building, where you construct craft and rockets and whatever that will take off from this launch pad over here vertically. And then over here we've got the tracking station, which lets us view an orbital map. This is planet Kerbin, where we are. You can see that I've got some space debris orbiting planet Kerbin from previous launches that I've done. If we zoom out a little bit more, you'll see over here we've got the moon. I have one of my Kerbal astronauts, Bill Kerman, currently stranded on the moon. His vessel crashed onto the surface. Somehow he survived, and now he's just hanging out there until I can put together a mission to go rescue him. This over here is our other moon, called Minmus. I have this other craft out here called the Durango, which is orbiting the Sun in a very close orbit with planet Kerbin. There's also these other planets that we've got hanging out here. This is the furthest one, Jewel, I believe. Yeah, it's as far as we can go out. You're able to visit all of these planets if you can get your spacecraft out there. But I have never gotten anything into orbit around any other body aside from the moon. And I've never successfully landed on the moon and gotten back to planet Kerbin, which is exactly what I'm going to attempt to do today. And all the way I will hopefully be giving you a good overview of what Kerbal Space Program is all about. So I'm going to come into the vehicle assembly building here, which is again where we build our vertically ascending rockets. The first thing you have to do is select a command module. You'll notice that when you hover over anything, it gives you the information about how much it costs. Right now that doesn't matter so much because money isn't implemented into the game. The whole thing is just a sandbox mode right now. Eventually there will be a campaign mode where you have a finite amount of funding and you have to build rockets with that funding, and hopefully successful missions will give you more money and you can hire astronauts. But right now, there's an infinite number of things in stock and nothing costs anything. We can also see how much this particular command module weighs, how much drag it will induce. You'll notice on the right side over here it says crew capacity, it's 3. This one's total mass is 4. This command module right here is less than 25% of the total mass, so it'll be easier to get into orbit. We don't have to have as much fuel and thrust to get it up there because it weighs less. But the crew capacity is 1, so we can only take one little Kerbal astronaut with us if we use this module. This is exactly the module I'm going to use, however, because it's light, and I like light things. So over here we've got all of the parts and pieces that we can use to build our rocket. They're separated into various tabs. This is the propulsion tab that has all of the fuel tanks and the rockets, solid rocket boosters. Command and control, this is where we'll find things like the advanced SAS module, which is sort of like an autopilot computer for your craft. It helps keep your craft pointed in the direction that it's already pointing. It's very difficult to fly a craft without one of these. It's not a total autopilot system in the sense that it will turn your craft for you when it needs to turn. It just, like I said, it keeps you pointed in one direction. Oh god, I need to stop saying one direction, because every time I do, I think of the band, and that is not what I want to be thinking about right now. Anyway, the structural and aerodynamic tab has things like nose cones to help make your craft more aerodynamic. It's got decouplers. These things are really useful, and you'll see me using some of these shortly. These things are used for creating different stages of your spacecraft. For example, if one of our fuel tanks runs out of fuel, we want to be able to jettison it so that we don't have to carry it with us. At that point, it's just dead mass. It's not helping us at all. So decouplers allow us to decouple our ship into smaller and smaller pieces as we use up our fuel. In utility and scientific, we'll find things like the Pegasus 1 mobility enhancer. It's just a ladder, basically. So when you land on the moon or when you land on a planet or something, you can have your guy come out of a little hatch and then use these things to descend the side of the ship. These are parachutes. This one is really big for bigger craft. Oh, I don't want that, but this one is smaller, which is something that we'll want here on our craft to make sure that if we make it back to planet Kerbin, we'll be able to enter the atmosphere and land safely. There isn't anything in the decals or the crew tabs yet. Eventually there will be decals and crew, I assume. Anyway, I've added a little parachute there, as you can see, because that's a thing that we need. And then I'm going to add, oh, that's a huge decoupler. I don't need one that big. A decoupler here, so that we can detach this from the rest of the ship when we're coming back to planet Kerbin. And below this, we're going to stick some fuel tanks, or rather, probably just one fuel tank. Right there. No, actually, pardon me. I want to stick one of those advanced SAS modules on here. Again, this is the the autopilot system that will keep us pointed in a direction. So I'll stick the fuel on after that. No, I won't, because I think I'm gonna need an RCS fuel tank. The RCS fuel tank provides fuel to the RCS system, which is these little tiny thrusters that will they provide thrust in any of these four directions to help keep your ship oriented in a particular direction, or if you need to change the orientation of your ship as you're flying around, you can use these to help do that. You'll notice up here I used this symmetry tool to add these things on. Normally, if it's down here like that, and you place something on the ship, it just puts one of them down. But if you want bilateral symmetry, you can put it on 2 there, and it'll add, you can see it's putting 2 of them on, or 3. You can go all the way up to 8, which is probably a little bit overkill for something like this. I'm just going to go ahead and go with 3 of them. I'll stick that there, so we have room for our guy to come down this ladder that we're going to put there later. So these, in conjunction with this fuel tank, will hopefully help keep us oriented the way we want to be. Now, finally, I'm going to add my fuel tank. Heck yes. Okay. No, I want to get back here, and then... Is it this one? No, that's much too big. I want this guy, this little engine right there. It doesn't provide very much thrust, but I'm hoping that by the time our spaceship gets this small, you'll see what I mean there in a bit, we won't need very much thrust or fuel anymore. Also, if we're going to land on the moon, we're going to want some landing legs. These things can deploy like landing gear, so that when we get close to landing, they pivot downward, allowing us to land without crunching our engine there. And then if we want our little dude to be able to get out of the ship, we're going to have to add a mobility enhancer. Oh, I don't need 3 of them, so let's go back down to 1. And then we'll just stick that right there. And then we'll have to add some rungs to help him get from up there down to where the ladder is. I'm hoping that yeah, that looks fine. He should do just fine with that. This little ladder retracts. When you launch, it's inside of that little... Let me see if I can zoom in here. It's inside of this little thingy, and this door flips open, and then the ladder comes out. So the ladder doesn't hang out outside of the ship while you're flying around. Okay, good. So now we're going to add this decoupler so that we can stick some more fuel tanks and engines down below. Stick a bigger fuel tank there. Just bring this up a little bit. Let's stick another fuel tank here. There are... Okay. With this fuel tank that I added for this thing up here, you don't need to have it necessarily connected. Like, I could stick these things down here, and as long as they're a part of the same craft, the fuel will get from here to this guy. That does not work the same way with... Oh dear. There we go. Nope. Hey, get on there. Get on there. Okay. That does not work the same way with liquid fuel. Liquid fuel is what's in these tanks right here. The FLT400 fuel tank. If, for example, I wanted to stick these things on the side up here, and come on. Why won't you connect? I'm trying to do a thing. Let's... Just to show you what I'm talking about, I'll stick some of these on the side, and I think it'll let me connect it to this. Okay, yes. If I have one engine at the bottom of this, the fuel tanks can drain straight down. So this thing will get fuel from this, but these won't get fuel to this engine unless I come over here and install some external fuel ducts. So you'll connect this to, say, this tank, and then fuel can drain from this one, or rather get pumped from this tank to this tank. And you'll notice that there's little arrows on it pointing in this direction. So if I stuck this over here first, and then over here, that wouldn't do us any good, because it would just be trying to pump fuel from here to here, but this tank is already full, so it won't. That doesn't help us. You need to make sure that you have these things facing the correct direction, not the one direction. Anyway, let's get rid of these. And oh, these guys are just kind of floating around. Why are you floating there? Things. I don't want you there. Well, okay. Can I get rid of you this way? Yeah, but see, the thing is, I don't want you there. Clearly there are a few bugs to work out. Oh, also, it looks like I'm about out of time for this episode. But keep your eyes out for episode number 2, where hopefully we will get to finish assembling this rocket and launch it. So, stay tuned.